Basically, it happens slowly. It doesn't happen all at once, because I used to be the type of person to question, you know, why don't you just leave somebody like that? And a lot of times whenever it turns into domestic abuse, the abuser has made it so that the victim cannot leave them. A lot of times it's financially. A lot of times they use smear campaigns to get them to stay. Anyways, I'm hoping to make another video on narcissistic abuse and get more specific on that, because I know that a lot more people go through it and are starting to speak up about it and learn, you know, what narcissism is. For me, I believe I was with a narcissistic psychopath, not even just a narcissist. I've really been educating myself on the psychology of it. But I do believe that there's a spiritual side to this. People have reported that they notice a lot more paranormal activity whenever they're around the narcissist. And I can say that this was true for me. So I got pregnant. We were living in Nebraska and I broke up with him. And then I found out that we were pregnant. So I gave him another chance and we moved back to Pennsylvania and we're staying with my family. It all started one night. I went to pick him up from work. This was around 11:30 at night. And on the way home, I saw something running into the woods. And now I've never really seen stuff like this before, and I thought I was kind of losing it because it was really dark out. And you know how sometimes you might see things like in the corner of your eye and it's kind of like your mind playing tricks on you. Some people will think that that's demons, whatever it is. I've never seen what I saw. So I saw this figure running into the woods. It was about maybe 8 to 10 feet tall. It had a tail and it was kind of hunched over while it was running. So like the front half of it was more hunched over than the bottom half, like almost like it was going into like a running position on all fours. And it was just a shadow and I saw it and it just went into the woods. And again, it's like really late at night. There wasn't really cars on the road and it's kind of like a back road with woods surrounding it. And I was with my ex. And he had a lot of knowledge on occult and folklore. He was really into that stuff, and also like Native American folklore because he grew up around it. And he described it to me before I even described it with him. I said, I think I just saw like a werewolf person running into the woods. And he described it to me like, does it look like it's kind of hunched over going into, you know, those were his words, running, like going into a running position. He described it to me perfectly the way that I saw it, and it really freaked me out because I've never seen anything like that. So in that point, when he described how it looked to me, I felt like I wasn't crazy because he described it before I did and what it looked like. Like I would have never thought that stuff was even real. And he would talk about it in depth, but basically what happens is, you know, witches, warlocks, whatever it is, they do blood magic. They usually will kill something or somebody to be able to morph into this being. Again, like he described it really in depth, and I do not know about this stuff. All I know is what I experienced. So that was my first encounter with the sort of like shapeshifter demon. And to this day, I still don't know if it was just like a demon manifested, because again, it's around him. And whenever you're around people that have open doors to the occult, you will also start to see these things manifest if you're around them long enough, because they are coming into agreement with these things. So that was the first time that I saw this. And again, at this point, I'm like a few months pregnant. The place where we were living, my baby's playing with that. I'm just going to talk over it. There was a little bit of a yard, and then there was a fence, and then downhill, and it was all woods, like a wooded area. There was this fat cat that would come up from under the hill and go over to the neighbor's house, and it was always just sitting outside in the yard, like kind of looking at us. It was really old. You know, usually outdoor cats are pretty skinny. They don't really live to be super old because other things will kill them. Like how that thing was not killed by a coyote, I don't know, because I would hear coyotes all the time. So it was just all around pretty weird. So this cat would go and the neighbor would feed it. So it would sit outside the neighbor's house. There was another cat too, but I never noticed the same things with the other cat. And I love animals. So one day I decided, like, I'm gonna go try and pet this cat and make friends with it because I like cats. And I walked up to it, and I'll never forget. It's really, really disturbing what I saw. It still disturbs me. I look at it, and its eyes are like half shut, like its eyelids are half shut, and it has no black part of its eye. It has no pupil. Its eyes were just this foggy, murky white color. And I looked at it and I instantly just felt weird. Like, I've seen all kinds of animals. Like, I'm not an easily spooked person. It didn't look blind. Like, I Googled pictures of blind cats and you can still kind of see their eyes. And there's a reason I think, you know, even let's just say if it was from being blind and had, I don't know if it's cataracts, whatever it is, there's a reason why I don't think that that was it. But anyways, I kind of like ran away from it, and my ex was sitting outside, and I'm like, this cat is like a zombie, like something is not right. And again, he was able to explain it to me. You know, was the cat, you know, did it have foggy, you know, eyes, and explained it to me before I even explained it to him. Again, very eerie, very weird. And he told me about how witches, warlocks, they will use animals, especially cats. And if you look in other cultures, he was talking about this too, there's always some sort of cat folklore. You know, in ancient Egypt, cats were seen as gods. I don't know how I feel about cats anymore. Maybe I'm gonna be like more of a dog person now, but he explained it to me, and he said that witches will sometimes use, you know, familiar spirits. They'll do, again, blood magic. They'll allow the familiar spirits into an animal. Either that, or somebody mentioned it's kind of like an astral projection type of thing. Like they will go into the animal to monitor people. And he said, we will know if it is a monitoring spirit because these animals, he said, because they're dead bodies, they just start to bloat and bloat and bloat until eventually they die. And this cat started to get fatter. It started to get fatter. It was already a really big cat. It was already fat and could barely walk. Its stomach, I remember its stomach was dragging onto the ground. Like this thing was hanging on for dear life. Again, how it didn't get eaten by a coyote or something, I have no idea. And so I just felt really weird about this whole thing. Like the cat already freaked me out. And I remember one day, nobody else was home, right? So our back door, you know, facing the yard, was clear. It was glass, so you could see through it. Not very well though, because it was the middle of the day. And I'm in the kitchen, the farthest end of the townhouse from the back door. And I look and I see the cat staring into the door from across the yard. Like it's just sitting there staring at me. And that's all this cat would do, is you would just see its eyes barely open, and it would sit in the neighbor's yard and just stare. It was very, very weird experience. I still don't know what that cat was doing. I don't know if it was a demonic cat. I don't know what was going on. So fast forward, like we're there for a few months, and my ex, I found out that he was, let's just say, watching lustful things on his phone, and I found out about it. Well, when I confronted him, he went like absolutely crazy. People say they see narcissists, like their eyes change, and it's been said that it's because of a physiological response from adrenaline. But anybody that's seen that happen, like, knows that it is very disturbing. And it's not even just that their pupils get really big and their eyes turn black. It's like their whole, the way they talk, the way they act, like it's like they're possessed. And I don't think that's too far off, because the Bible does talk about possession. He started to go crazy. No matter how much I tried to stop talking about it, he was just going crazy, because I wouldn't admit that I believed him, that it just randomly appeared in his search history. So he was going crazy to the point where he was telling me, like, I was telling him, I'm gonna have to call the police on you because you're not, you know, leaving me alone. He's following me into rooms. He's trapping me in rooms. I was very pregnant. I was starting to get so stressed out to the point where I was having contractions, and I actually went to the hospital and they confirmed that I was having contractions. And I was way too early to be having these contractions. And they said that it could have been caused by stress. So I told him, like, if you don't leave me alone, and nobody else was home for hours, everybody's at work. I said, if you don't leave me alone, I'm gonna have to call the police because it's been 2 days now. You won't stop harassing me. I don't know what to do. Like, I can't even be comfortable in my own home. And he kept saying, like, do it, you know, calling me names, call the police, do it. So I called them. You know, like, this crazy man is in my house. I can't get him out. He won't leave. He won't let me leave. You know, he'd take my keys and say, you're not leaving me. He'd take my phone and say, you're not telling anybody. He would say I was making things up. You're not telling anybody what I'm doing to you. It was very, very sinister. So there's a reason for me explaining all of this, I promise. He tells the police that he wants to drive his car off of a bridge. The police are like, we have to take you in because you're saying you're gonna kill yourself, or you want to kill yourself, you have plans to. So while he's in the mental hospital for a week and I'm by myself, really strange night, I had this dream. Well, first I woke up in the middle of the night because I had my window cracked and I felt kind of creeped out, and I woke up and it really just smelled like trash, like garbage. And I remember him telling me that shapeshifters smell rotten. They smell like death. And so I smelled this weird smell and I shut the window. I actually really didn't think of anything. Like, I didn't think of it at the time. I shut the window and I go back to sleep, and I have this dream of a satyr outside my window, but like downstairs. I was on the second floor, and it was running away from me, like running away from my window, from my, you know, where I was. And I just had this thought that it was going after its next victim. And in the dream, I then heard sirens out front of the house. The back was the backyard, and then the front of the house was like the street. And, you know, there's houses on both sides because it's a townhouse. I actually have the dream written down. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I should have looked before recording this. But I remember like the basics of it. So my ex was there, and he turned into a demon. Like, his eyes went black and he turned into a demon. And then Satan himself appeared in the dream. And in the dream, I'm on the phone with a 911 operator, and it's a woman, and she sounds very sweet. And I'm telling her, I'm like, I think there's some sort of gang activity going on around my house. And I think she asked me a couple questions. I perceived it to be an angel speaking to me on the phone because I was calling 911. I'm calling for help, and it asks me, you know, I'm telling it there's gang activity. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And she asked me, is it, and I believe this was the name of the demon, Lamey, something. I think that's the name. Y'all, so Satan is there as like this thing with like devil horns, you know, like classic looking Satan. There's my ex, and Satan starts mocking me. He starts laughing at me. I called on the name of Christ, the Hebrew name that I call him. In my head, I say it, and he's mocking me, and he says it in a mocking way. And I say it again, and then I'm waiting. I know that I'm waiting for God to come. I knew I called on him, and I'm waiting for him to come and save me. And I get woken up, and I'm woken up out of this dream. I have dreams a lot of casting demons out, and times where I have to call on the name of the Lord, and I wake up. And I don't know if it's spiritual attacks in my dreams. I know that other people have had them because they've told me the same thing. So I wake up, and it's the middle of the night, and I start Googling, you know, Lamey demon. I'm pretty sure that's what the name of it was. It might be a little bit different, but I know it was like a shortened version of the full name of this demon. And I start Googling like demon, and there was this one page that came up, demonology. And it's saying the history of this demon. It's saying the full name. And it freaked me out so bad. it still is like really disturbing to talk about this. This specific demon targets, you know, it seduces young men, is what it said in this article. And I wrote everything in my notes. I copy and pasted it. Seduces young men. It takes on the role historically of a vampire, which some of the videos that I saw had girls dressed like vampires being provocative. Really weird. In history, it targets young men and seduces them. And then what it really wants is the women and newborn babies. The thing about this demon is that it steals newborn babies from mothers. That is the goal of this demon. And right then and there, you know, I was pregnant probably about 6 months at this point. I was really freaked out because of the videos that I saw. You know, my ex got taken out of there, and I was confident that he was inviting this thing in through his actions, through the stuff that he was watching, just whatever he was doing, he was attracting this thing. Another thing that I read about it was that it takes on the appearance of a satyr, and that is what I saw in my dream. So I heavily believed that angel, if it was God, told me what the name of this demon was and told me what I was up against, because everything that was going on matched up with the description of this demon. It was a shape-shifting demon. It was known as like a transgender male and female shape-shifting demon. It also was associated with having a horrible smell to it. It was called the night hag. So this was like a very famous demon, really big, powerful demon that I was facing. And yeah, like I said, I truly believe that he was inviting this thing in through whatever doors he had open. I was with him to this day. I believe that he is possibly a false convert Christian because he had no fruits. You know, the Bible tells us to test people by their fruits, because a lot of people can say, oh, I'm a Christian, and then they really have no fruit of the Holy Spirit. And then I remember one more thing happening with this shapeshifter demon. Whenever, or a couple weeks before he left, he got kicked out of my mom's house because he shoved me. I was 3 weeks postpartum and he was threatening to kill me, shoved me. But a couple days before that, I had a dream of that demon coming in and taking my baby and trying to walk out the door with it. And it got all the way to the stairs. At first I grabbed my knife and I think I was trying to stab it, but it wasn't working. And then I started calling on Jesus. You know, we don't fight against flesh and blood. It's against powers and principalities in high places. That's what the Bible says. So once I started calling on Jesus, I woke up and it didn't get out the door with my baby. So I really believe that whatever it was really after me, after my baby, because apparently that's what it does. Because of my trauma bond that I had, I ended up going back to him after he got kicked out. He took a train to Montana and I went about a month and a half later. You know, I was newly postpartum. I didn't want to have a baby by myself. He was being very manipulative, because that's what these people do, is they manipulate and they will it's called future faking, you know, oh, it's going to be great, I'm going to change, you know, all that stuff. And he was the nicest I've ever seen him. So I believed him at the time. And this was before I knew a lot about narcissistic abuse. When I was there, the last fight that we had a couple days before, I was trying to go to sleep and we're laying face to face and I open my eyes and he is staring at me like something out of an Exorcist movie. He's staring at me with these huge eyes like an animal. Like, I did not recognize him. He looked like an animal and he looked like he wanted to eat me. Again, really scary and freaky stuff. Like, I felt like I was in a movie. And he rolled his head back over and kind of like wiped his mouth. And in this creepy, like, demonic voice, I cannot make this up, started saying, or he said, it was the L. Or it was the ale. Like, that's how he said it, ale. And I'm like, beer? What was the beer? Like, why you're looking at me like you want to eat me and take my soul? Like, is that what the beer did to you? What are you talking about, the ale? And he just rolled over and I couldn't get him to wake up. Like I kept waking him up. I'm like, is he messing with me? He wouldn't wake up. And so I was just up all night praying. Next day I Google like, what does Ale mean? And the suggestion came up in ancient Hebrew and it means God. And I'm like, the God told you to do this. Like God, lowercase g, like demon. The demon God, like your demon God. Like what are we talking about here? Very, very freaky, and a last-ditch effort to save this relationship, because he always said, you know, I'm a Christian, you can't leave me. And this is what spiritual abuse does, is he would say, God is going to punish you if you leave me because this is your will for your life. I am your husband. Despite him abusing me and technically breaking a marriage covenant, because that's what abuse does. It breaks, you know, that person is acting like an unbeliever. They're unrepentant. They're acting like your enemy at that point. That is not your husband or wife. That is your enemy. Okay, just to clear that up, because I know tons of people, you know, in these forums and these groups that are going through narcissistic abuse and just abuse in general. Dr. Ramani on YouTube, she says that every domestic abuser is a narcissist. They basically have to be, but not every narcissist is a domestic abuser. So in a last-ditch effort to save the relationship, I started praying deliverance prayers. I think this was the next day. And I'm saying, you have a demon. And he kept saying, stop calling me a demon. And I'm like, I'm not calling you a demon. I'm saying you have a demon or demons. And I never really got that, but it's because he probably was possessed. Maybe, you know, full on possessed. The thing that I saw looking like an exorcist movie, that was some crazy stuff. So I started praying deliverance prayers. By a pastor that I follow on YouTube, and it's, you know, any unclean spirit come out right now, and you know, they're praying in Jesus's name. And I remember the pastor started saying, anything attacking the lungs, come up right now, come out right now. And he was smoking at the time, and he started getting so mad, like, turn that off, stop playing that, that's too loud. He did not want me playing deliverance prayers around him. Like, he started to itch, he started to get angry, he started to get mad. And this was a red flag to me. You know, if you play that around a Christian, somebody that has the Holy Spirit in them, who doesn't have demons, you know, his demons started to manifest, basically. And so I truly believe that he was allowing these things to manifest and start to take over. And I actually heard from somebody else that their ex used to blame it on the demons, Jezebel and Leviathan. And y'all, those were the exact same demons that he said were after our relationship. And I talked to another friend at the time, and she said, he is bringing those things to you. And my whole life, like, yeah, I'd never seen or experienced these things. And when my friend told me it was because of him, that really made a lot of sense. And then the fact that somebody else in one of these groups said that their narcissistic abuser related it to the same demons really freaked me out. So I tried doing deliverance on him, or trying to get him to get deliverance. You can't force deliverance on somebody, and it did not work. So, and this all happened within the span of a week. It started to really escalate. One day he woke up, the baby woke up in the middle of the night. He hadn't even cried. I hadn't even got a chance to get him. He just started whining. And my ex started saying, shut the F up, make it effing stop. And I was saying, shh, shh, like, be quiet. And again, y'all, I did not feel like I could get out of this situation. Like, I put myself in this situation, but each time I went back, it got worse. And the Bible talks about demons coming back stronger. And they say that if you go back to a narcissist, that the demons are manifesting stronger and stronger in them each time. So anyways, after I had got there and the abuse started to get worse, then I felt like I couldn't get out. I had to go through a wilderness season with God to get where I am now. It took about 3 or 4 months. And that pretty much is what people are avoiding whenever they don't want to leave their Egypt. They don't want to go through the Exodus. They don't want to go through the wilderness season. So our last fight that we had, I get a little bit sidetracked. He was telling the baby to shut the F up. And so I went out in the kitchen to try to get the baby to go to sleep quietly. He followed me, you know, verbally abusing me, saying like, you're gonna be, you know, I'm gonna punish you. Like, you wanna wake me up in the middle of the night. Like, you're gonna, basically, like, you're gonna get it. He just kept saying stuff to me. He took my laundry basket and flipped it up on the ground and was like, just clothes everywhere, saying like, pick it up, B word. He was very crazy. He shoved me. I was baby wearing in a wrap. He shoved me into the bedroom while I was holding the baby, telling me to find his hat for him. And this was all happening at like 4 in the morning. And him saying that I woke him up. So, you know, we got into an argument and something told me to start recording. He told me in this argument that he was going to stab me. So the next day, I told him I was going for a walk and went to the police station because I couldn't leave the house without his approval, or else he would block the door and say, "You're not taking my son." And I'd say, "Well, I'm not leaving him here with you." He wouldn't let me go places. And y'all, he's about 6'4". I'm probably about 5'5". So there's no way I'm like fighting him. It really was just a crazy experience. The things that I saw, and a lot of times in his sleep, I remember he would just speak in a random language. I don't know if he was really conscious and like pretending to be asleep, because I've heard that abusers also will get you sleep deprived as a way to abuse you. So they will keep you up at night, they will talk, they will do anything to try to keep you awake. And so y'all, this is basically the majority of the story. Maybe I'll post in the caption my notes from that night, and that was August 31st, 2023. I really just wanted to share this story and get this out there. I felt convicted to do it. I've seen a lot of crazy things, and I'm starting to feel like talking about it. So if you subscribe to me, I'll probably be coming out with more videos. Naturally, I'm a very shy person. I don't like being put on the spot, but because of these things that I've been through, I feel really convicted to talk about it. You know, I kind of relate to Moses when God told him to go and talk to the Israelites and he didn't want to, and God got upset. So I kind of relate to that a little bit, and I'm trying to be obedient. So if you want to subscribe, I'm probably going to talk about more things. I am an ex-witch. I used to be a new age. I've lived in 5 different states over the last 3 years, mostly because of my ex and moving around. So I've seen and heard and some crazy stuff since then. So if you watched this far, thank you for listening. May the Lord bless you.